Hello, my amazing people, and welcome back to my channel. If you're back, if you are new, welcome to my channel. I'm Shayna, and I have a missing persons case for you all today. Today, I'll be talking to you about the case of Akia Eggleston, who went missing in 2017, and there's actually a very recent update on her disappearance. So this video is part one of a two-part series. So this video you're seeing today, and then part two will be uploaded tomorrow, so make sure you tune in for that. Just my usual disclaimer, this is all information that I have found online and compiled into a video for educational purposes. Thank you so very much for joining me today, and let's get started. Akia Eggleston was born in 1994 and lived in the Cherry Hill neighborhood of Baltimore, Maryland at the time of her disappearance in 2017. She was a very happy woman in her early 20s, and she was extremely energetic and lively. High energy, very active, and she loved to dance, and she was really good at it. Everyone knew her to be a dancer. She had tons of charisma and wit, and she was known to have this reputation of being small but mighty. She was small in stature but huge in heart and huge in personality. And many people felt like she was just born to make people feel good and to dance and just be this very charismatic, excited, and life-loving kind of person. She was super close to her family members, and she would do literally anything for anybody. She always gave back whenever she could, and she had great relationships with her stepfather, who was a man named Sean, as well as her mother, who actually very tragically passed away from breast cancer in 2012. The loss of her mother was, as you may imagine, very hard on Akia because they had a really tight bond. But in current life, she was very happy because she had her daughter, and she was known to be an incredible mother, you guys. There wasn't a thing in the world that Akia wouldn't do for her daughter. And on top of this, she was also very excited because she had a little boy on the way, and she was actually 8 months pregnant when she went missing, and she was extremely excited, obviously, for her pregnancy, but there was this extra layer of excitement on top of the normal pregnancy excitement because she wanted to have a boy. So she was thrilled in what she was able to look forward to, and in this really great celebratory mood at the time. Her baby shower was fast approaching in May, and she was due to have her baby in June. And she actually put a huge deposit down on a venue and all of the planning of the baby shower. And she had plans to get her hair done really nicely. So this was a huge deal for her. She put down basically $1,000 security deposit. So this was something that she was willing to splurge on because of how excited she was to be a mother again. But when Akia didn't show up to her own baby shower on May 7th of 2017, everyone in her life became concerned. Like I told you, she was very excited for this baby shower. She put so much energy and effort and money into planning it. So a little bit of time goes by, she's still not showing up. People are just looking around at each other like, what's going on? And another thing to mention is that Akia's pregnancy was classified as high risk. So the baby was breech, which apparently happens in about 1 in 25 pregnancies, and Akia was nearly entirely bedridden at the time. She was a very tiny woman. The pregnancy was getting to a point where doctors just basically ordered her to stay in bed. So everyone kind of was just really worried, maybe thinking that something had happened. Maybe Akia had gone to the hospital or gone into labor, and people were just really concerned. So they attempted to contact her, obviously via phone call and via text message, but she wasn't picking up her phone. So her loved ones decided to go to her apartment in Cherry Hill that she shared with a roommate to find that Akia was not home. And it was a really confusing scenario because she was missing, but all of her clothes in her closet were gone, and there were pieces of furniture also missing from her room. So people were looking at each other like, what is happening here? She hasn't communicated with any of us that she was going somewhere, and it's like she just poof and disappeared. And another interesting thing that people noticed in her apartment was that there was this hole in the wall about the size of a fist that kind of made everyone shudder a little bit. It put this thought in people's mind, like, was she kidnapped? Was she hurt somehow? Where was she? She was in such a state that hurting her or taking her would not have been an incredible task because she was just really unable to defend herself or really do anything physical in nature with her pregnancy. And the only person that I saw mention that they were able to get some sort of response from Akia was her grandmother, who actually was calling her and texting her, and one phone call that she made was declined, and she got a text that came through pretty quickly that said that she didn't feel was Akia. Like, her grandmother just felt as though somebody else may have sent the text message. It said something along the lines of, "I can't talk right now, I'm gonna call you back," which was odd. Akia had good relationships, like I told you, with her stepdad and her mom, but also especially her grandmother. They had this really tight bond. Akia would like never ignore her grandmother's phone calls and send texts instead. So this wasn't her norm, and her grandma was really suspicious of this text message from the beginning. But obviously, being in this confused and frenzied state and not really knowing which direction to go, people were kind of at a standstill, and they started to realize that no one had actually spoken to Akia that day. No one had actually heard her voice recently. And as they're talking to each other and piecing together their correspondence with Akia, they all realized that no one has actually heard her voice since May 3rd, which is 4 days before this day on May 7th. And as everybody's realizing this, the grim possibility that she had already been missing for 4 days became a real concern. And on top of this, Akia was very active on her social media accounts. She had posted in recent days about how she was missing her mom. She was known to stay connected with people on Facebook Messenger. She used apps like Facebook a lot. So for her to go radio silent on these platforms since May 3rd was very uncharacteristic of her. And the family decided to report her missing the following day when they had no luck getting in contact with or finding her on May 7th. So police became involved as of May 8th. Something you may be wondering about is, who is the father of Akia's child and where is he? Did he show up to the baby shower? What's going on with him? It appeared that most people in Akia's life actually didn't know who this man was. That's because the father of her daughter, who she had previously had, was a different man than this current man who was the father of her unborn child. So people really didn't know anything about this guy. And they all kind of just called her baby boy Baby Eggleston, which obviously Eggleston is Akia's last name. It's not the last name of this father. And from what I found, Akia really hadn't introduced him to any of her loved ones or given any information to them about who he was, especially her family. So it came as a shock to her loved ones when they and the police discovered that Akia had told her roommate that she planned to move in with this man and was actually in the process of putting down a deposit on a new place for the two of them to live together just before the baby came. Akia had actually told her roommate and a close friend of hers that by the 10th of May, the two of them were planning to be living together. So she's reported missing on the 8th. There's some discoveries taking place, and people are realizing, like, wait, Akia was planning to move in with this guy by the 10th? So is she somewhere with him? People were just really confused. Some sources have mentioned that Akia did not want her family to know who this man was, that she purposely kept him away from her family. I don't really know for sure, what the backstory to that was, if she did it purposely or if she just never got around to introducing him. What we do know for sure is that Akia's family definitely had no idea that she was planning to move in with this man. It wasn't even an option that was ever discussed on the table with Akia's family. But this man is named Michael Robertson, and from what I found, he is about 14 years older than Akia. Now, even though nobody really knew who this man was or knew him very well at all, Akia's close friends were aware of a recent development that happened between this man and Akia. So shortly before her disappearance was discovered, she made a post on Facebook where she was excitedly sharing a picture of a sonogram just to show off that she was, super excited to be a mom again. And Akia had told her friends about this sparking an issue. Okay, so this man, Michael Robertson, was still in a relationship with another woman who mothered two of his other children. And he was still dealing with this woman, apparently still in a full-fledged relationship with her. So when this other woman saw that Akia posted this sonogram, probably tagged Michael in it, the other woman reached out to Akia, and the two of them kind of had a back and forth. So as far as we know, the relationship between Akia and this man was pretty steady, I guess you could say. There weren't any known issues or arguments or fights in recent days between the two of them. We know that Akia was stressed out because there was this other woman that was now giving her an issue while she was supposed to be in this really peaceful time in her life. And I don't know if Akia previously knew about this woman or if this was a complete shock to the system and she just hadn't found out about this woman at the time that the woman confronted her about the pregnancy and being involved with the same man as her. And I get very annoyed by third-party situations because there are just so many better ways to handle scenarios of the heart than cheating. I get so very frustrated by situations like this, and it annoys me because I understand the effects of being put in a situation like this. But yeah, that's kind of where they were. And Akia's friends knew that she was stressed out about this. And this man has multiple children with different women, according to some sources. But police wanted to speak to this man, of course, and they were working on getting in contact with him. But in the meantime, they started asking people around Akia's apartment complex if anyone had seen her, if anyone had spotted her or seen her leaving or seen her with people. And they spoke to a maintenance man who was in the area who told police that he actually was sure that he had seen Akia that day, that police were around kind of looking around. And obviously we know now that that is not true, but it had some people hopeful that this was just a huge misunderstanding, that Akia had been around and that she was okay. But of course it would be discovered that this was just a situation of mistaken identity and that the maintenance man hadn't actually seen her, that he had seen someone else that he mistook for Akia. But it still kind of planted the seed, and police were sort of feeling like Akia most likely left off her own free will. There were texts with her friends about her moving in with her child's father. There were things missing from her apartment. And this mistaken sighting, all of these things combined, almost kind of convinced police at first that she was probably fine and that she had just taken a few days to herself. But her loved ones insisted that this could not be the case. Her grandmother, who had just seen her a few days before all this, said that she could barely walk on her own due to her pregnancy causing her complications. She was a tiny woman. The pregnancy was high risk. She was bedridden. She was bedbound. She wouldn't just up and leave and not tell any of her loved ones who were very supportive of her in her pregnancy where she was going. Even if she would get up and leave, she wouldn't have been able to physically carry all of the belongings that were missing from her apartment. If you think about it, there was a dresser missing. Pretty much her entire closet of clothes were missing. Apparently, there were a couple other things missing that were unnamed. So it just seemed really odd that this woman who was bursting at the seams with child would just move all of these things on her own. So her loved ones had nearly no doubt in their minds that Akia was gone with the help of someone else, and really worried that maybe she was missing against her free will. They were distraught. Her family couldn't eat, they couldn't sleep, they were in complete shock. Akia was a great person. She had her head on straight. She didn't drink. She didn't do drugs. She always stayed in contact with her family. This was just totally bizarre, especially given that she went missing at a time where she needed help and support from her family and her loved ones the most. And finding both Akia and baby Eggleston was of utmost importance to the people who loved both of them. So I told you that Akia had been really missing her mom since her mom passed away in 2012, and the sadness that she was feeling from this loss had some people speculating that maybe Akia had done something to herself if she was experiencing, some dark times from reminiscing about her mom and thinking about losing her mom. Back when her mom passed away, Akia did become rebellious. She wasn't taking direction from her stepdad as well, and she was just acting out from the sadness and overwhelming feelings that she was experiencing from the loss. But those close to her said that the idea of this being a self-inflicted thing just could not be. Those closest to her strongly felt that above all else, she was a mother. So they were just thinking she would not have left her daughter behind. Her daughter meant absolutely everything to her, and there was no conceivable way that she would just disappear on her own like this. Police contacted Akia's landlord about CCTV footage, but they were told, unfortunately, that the camera nearest Akia's unit had not been working at the time that she went missing, of course. So basically, the camera that would have given them what they needed as far as who was coming and going from Akia's apartment, who moved the furniture out of Akia's apartment, there was no access to. So this camera was no help whatsoever, and it would have been crucial to see what was happening. But what they were able to get a hold of was Akia's bank records, and it was found that she made a withdrawal of $572 from her bank account at a bank that was located in the inner harbor of Baltimore, and this withdrawal took place on May 3rd. So 4 days before Akia's loved ones realized that she was missing. Police, of course, made their way down to this bank, and they were able to confiscate the CCTV footage that showed Akia in plain sight on camera, very pregnant as can be and seemingly fine in the footage, making her withdrawal. And police spoke to the bank teller who assisted Akia that day, and the teller said that she was totally fine. There was nothing out of the ordinary. She didn't seem stressed or pressured, and it just seemed like a normal transaction. But we do know that this amount of $572 was higher than normal based on her normal transaction history. So it was quickly inferred that maybe this withdrawal was money that was to be used for a deposit on the place that Akia was planning to get with her child's father. But where did she go after this? After Akia left this bank, there were no more sightings of her that police could find. It was as though she fell off the face of the earth, like she vanished without a trace. 100 people were interviewed, and 12 search warrants and subpoenas were issued in the months after Akia went missing, and the FBI also became involved in her disappearance in 2017 in November of that year. Ground and water searches were conducted, and police were seemingly doing some digging behind the scenes, but Akia's family have kind of felt like the communication with the police has been subpar at best. Over the years since she went missing, the family has been less than satisfied with the communication and the kind of lack of communication that they've gotten from the police, and they haven't really felt like the updates that they get, which are very minuscule every 3 to 6 months, just have not been sufficient. And they felt like in large part they've been doing the dirty work and looking for their loved one. A cash reward was posted for any information about Akia's whereabouts, but the tips were not coming in quickly, if at all, really. I mean, people were not coming forward with any information. But don't worry, because we are not done. There are some very interesting updates in this case that came out just this year that will all be explained in part 2 in extreme detail for you. But what I can tell you now is police interviewed Michael a few times, who told police that he last saw Akia a couple days before she went missing. He said that he had absolutely no idea what happened to her, and he was just as worried as everybody else. But something that was really odd was that he had gotten himself a brand new cell phone just a couple days after the initial report of her being missing was filed. And after his third police interview, Michael uprooted his entire life and moved all the way to Michigan to live with his other children's mother. So there wasn't enough evidence to charge him at this point with anything, but police and Akia's loved ones were definitely having growing suspicions. Her friends were reaching out to him on Facebook, and we know that at least one of her friends got blocked by him for reaching out. And it was just kind of looking a little odd, his behavior. But you will not believe the information that was found in this man's phone records. There was a press conference done, pretty much, dishing out all of the details, and my jaw just hit the floor when I heard it myself. What I can tell you now is that we do have a resolution in this case that you will definitely want to hear about, and I will be giving you all of those details about what happened since she went missing in part 2. If you don't already know about what's happened, hang tight for part 2 before doing any digging of your own. If you want to be notified when that video is uploaded, though, please be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you can come and get all of that information. There really is a lot to unpack. There are some situations where there's kind of a lot of speculation and there aren't as many details released to the public. But in this situation, we do have our hands on some details that are critical and crucial to know since Akia disappeared. I want to thank you guys so very much for joining me today. You know what I'm going to say. If you made it this far, you are loyal. You really are, and I appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful evening or morning or afternoon, depending on what time it is, where you are when you watch this video. And I look forward to seeing you guys in part 2. Thanks so much. Peace.